All right. So, hello everyone. This is the Tell Your Story podcast. My name is Kwanzaa White, and so today, this will be the very first episode. So, this podcast will be talking about sexual assault, bringing awareness to it, having survivors on the space to be able to share their stories. And also have allies on to talk about and speak about what they're doing to help bring change to the communities, organizations, and stuff like that too. And so with me here today is Sophie Peterson. If you would like to introduce yourself and let people know about who you are, what you do, and a fun fact about yourself.
Okay. So, hi everyone. My name is Sophie. I'm a super senior, I guess, super senior, studying cell molecular biology and chemistry at Eastern Michigan University. Um, what do I do? I mean, I'm a student. That's really what I do, and I've been doing a lot of political activism surrounding sexual assault, especially at our university. Fun fact about myself: I just got a kitten and she's really cute. And hopefully you won't see her pop up in the background.
For sure. This episode will be probably in 45 minutes long. So we will be delving deep into a lot of the issues that have been going on, especially because I'm also a super senior too at Eastern Michigan. But I'm currently taking a break. But this podcast too, also a little fun fact is also in response to a lot of things that has been going on our campus with the sexual assault allegations and cover up. And especially not only on our college campus, but in every other college campus as well too. To start off, so Sophie, if you would like to share your story and your own experience, and just delving into why it's important for you to bring more awareness to an important issue such as sexual assault.
Okay. That's like a big umbrella question. So, okay, we'll work my way through that. You can like remind me what I'm doing along the way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just, keep me on track. But I guess my story starts in August of 2018. So, almost 3 years ago now. Almost. We're not quite there yet. But at this time, this is when I was actually supposed to be a junior in college. I was going into my junior year of college, and I had just moved back, to Ipsy, where everyone leaves and goes to their families or whatever in the summer, and then you all come back, and like the middle of August, the first couple weeks, it's like really fun because you're getting to see all of your friends that you haven't seen all summer.
Mm-hmm.
And the first instance of sexual assault, rape, I know it's a hard word to use, but I try to use it because I don't want it to have power over me. The first instance of rape occurred to me during that period of time. We were kind of all going out to like little local parties at people's houses and doing all of that sort of thing. Um, that's not my big story though. That's just something that happened that kind of leads up to the big story. I know it's weird for me to say that like one rape wasn't a big deal because that's not true.
Mm-hmm.
But it kind of led me into making the decisions I made moving down the road. I had a relationship with somebody, a man who wanted to have sex with me, and at the time I wasn't sure about it
Mm-hmm.
because I was a virgin. I didn't know if I wanted to have sex with him because that's a bigger decision. I feel like, and it's the first person you're gonna have sex with, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when I got raped, that was my first sexual experience, and it kind of made me feel like, well, at this point, like now, what do I have to contemplate? Like I don't have anything to lose anymore, and so
Mm-hmm.
I need to start a sexual relationship was someone who turned out to be the most, I don't know how to describe him. He is terrifying and manipulating and just, I mean, he's a rapist. he serially raped me that entire semester.
Jesus.
Yeah, it was hard because I didn't realize, because of the fact that I liked him, and that because he was so heavily manipulating me, that what was happening to me was rape. I thought it was okay,
Mm.
which kind of doesn't make sense. You think like it would be really clear, like when you see a friend who's in an abusive relationship, it's very clear to you that they're in an abusive relationship, and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
get out of it, just get out of it. But it's different when you're the friend that's in it, because
Mm-hmm.
you can't see. You have on these rosy colored glasses. You have like the love bombing that a manipulative individual does, where they occasionally will tell you all these things that they love about you, and will talk about your future, and they'll do this and they'll do that, and
Mm-hmm.
strip it all away from you and make you feel like the most minuscule, insecure, like worthless human. And that's controlling.
Mm-hmm.
I know I'm not the only one who's had this experience. I'm sure people who watch this will have had maybe an experience with someone similar. But it was obviously physically abusive, but it was emotionally abusive as well. And I'm still, struggling with the PTSD from that whole entire semester worth of rape today. And that's why I'm a super, super senior, because
Mm-hmm.
you can only do so much when you have severe PTSD,
Mm-hmm.
Say what you're going to say.
Then so the next question then would be um, so did you go to the Title IX office then on the college campus then, and if so, how was that whole entire process? Especially because I know like different people, especially a couple people I know went through very interesting circumstances with the office as well.
Yes. So I did go to Title IX, but I went regarding the first rape. The initial
Mm-hmm.
one that made me decide to get into the sexual relationship with the other person. So person A, I went to Title IX about, and I will explain my experience. So my parents, like I told my mom about what happened, and she suggested Title IX because obviously Title IX seems like a good resource, right? Like they tell you to go there if something's wrong, that something happens to you sexually, and they're supposed to like make it easier for you because you're distraught. You're experiencing PTSD symptoms. It's incredibly
Mm-hmm.
emotionally heavy. And I went, and at the time, Melody Warner was the person who I saw.
Mm-hmm.
I think she was the head of the office here at Eastern Michigan University. And the way that the meeting went is she started by having me just sort of like recount the events. And I could barely get any words out about it at the time, so she kind of had to ask me questions about
Mm-hmm.
actual details. But the way she said it was like, I'm gonna take a report. Like I'm gonna take a report here of all the information. So if you ever decide that you want to report it, I can just send it over. And I'm like, okay, so like I don't know why we're putting me through this trauma right here, right now, again.
Mm-hmm.
Ready to talk about it, but it should be very clear that I'm traumatized with little detail about the sexual trauma, but that's what we did. And she told me that I could report it, but probably nothing would really happen if I did.
Mm-hmm.
And I got some some help with school, I guess. That's really the only support that I got. I got I was able to get some deadline extensions for assignments and such things so that I could try and stay in school. But I ended up withdrawing from the whole semester except for one class. It's the only class I didn't fail that semester. I got a C. That was the best I could do that semester. I couldn't get out of bed. It was bad. And I guess there's protocol that they're supposed to follow in the Title IX office. And they don't follow it. And I don't know all of the legal details. But every time I've told this story to the local police station, because I have cases against my assaulters, and when I've spoken with attorneys, they're just shocked at what I have to say. And to me, it doesn't sound shocking because it's the same story every other person here at Eastern. If not worse. There are worse Title IX nightmares here, but they don't know. They don't do anything.
Yeah, it's definitely sounds like it's frustrating, especially because of how much and how often this has been occurring to just not only you, but to also like multiple other people. Especially with the experience they had, and wanting and the resources there that should be there, especially for people where they need to go through, to report, reaching out to the police department, and see and how like each and every year there's some big like unveiling of something relating to sexual assault where like it's just be like, wait, what the hell? And then it's just like, oh, we're gonna do better by improving like these small little policies, have like some sort of conference or something, and then all of a sudden it's like back to business as usual the very next year, and then unveiling it again and again till.
If they did follow their policies, not all of which I agree with for the record, but if they did follow their policies, things would look different here. They're not following them.
So what specific policies then would you say that they don't follow then?
Okay. I would love to have more expertise.
Yeah.
To give you like this exact document, this exact moment. I think if you were to let me go for like an hour, I could come back and I could show you everything specifically, but I'm gonna have to talk kind of vaguely here. So I'm sure some people know better than me here. But I'm pretty sure that they are required to report anything that you say, even if you don't want to press charges, to local police. Like no matter what you do. So they would talk. Sometimes they would talk to EMU police, but EMU police doesn't do anything because EMU police is serving the university, and politically it looks good for the university to have low rates of sexual assault. If you kind of see like what the issue is, Melody has heard the same names over and over and over again. People, men, women, non-binary individuals coming into that office, and they said, this person assaults me or this person rapes me. And she heard those names repeated 2 times, 4 times, 8 times, and didn't ever give Ypsilanti Police Department a call and say, hey, I have at least X number of girls here who are saying that they were assaulted by this person. Maybe you ought to put them on your radar. Like, I don't know what if I were at Title IX.
What? Repeat that again? I'm sorry.
I was going to say, if I was the head of Title IX, if I kept hearing the same name over and over again, they didn't want to report, I would not just let those reports sit in my computer in that way.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Like
and that's what was happening. And that's why they're saying that it was swept under the rug. I don't know that EMU was maliciously trying to sweep cases under the rug, but
Mm-hmm.
they sure as hell weren't following whatever rules you're supposed to follow. Because according to every legal official that I've spoken with, my attorney included, Melody didn't do what she was supposed to. And I'm sorry I can't elaborate further on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's fine. I mean, like, this is an issue that's very pervasive, but also very systematic, as as the example that's presented. Right. Especially because, like, again, like you said, you heard the name of it multiple times, and someone by the name of Sophie Peterson said the college is obligated to provide a prompt, thorough, and equitable investigation of any report of sexual harassment and sexual violence. This this obligation remains even in the absence of a formal complaint.
Okay.
So, so
So let's say that Melody did report it every time to the EMU police.
mhm,
Maybe that means the EMU police wasn't doing their job. So it's
mhm,
within the university umbrella, if you know what I'm getting at here.
mhm,
The part of what irks me about it so much is that I'm sorry, I'm trying to
mhm,
trip over my words here. I feel like survivors don't have any good resources. I don't want to go to Title IX. Maybe I'm not ready to go to CAPS, which is our therapy, or basically it's like our therapists that are on campus that you can go to.
yeah,
Maybe I don't know, maybe I can't talk about it to a friend. Well, then what do I do? There's nothing left for us to do. You would think that Title IX would have like a survivor support group or something that you could go to where you're not
mhm,
obligated to make any report. You're not obligated to speak to someone from Title IX. You're not obligated to tell your friends yet or go to therapy. You can just sit and, maybe like a group circle type situation, just like listen to what's going on.
mhm.
I actually started a survivor support group on my Facebook. If anyone's interested in that, you can friend me on Facebook. My name on there is Sophie Rose.
So, you can also follow her on Twitter as well.
Yes, you can. Those are the two places where you'll see me talk about this subject matter a lot. So those are the best places to look at. But yeah, if you're interested in the group, just friend me and you can message me about it and I will add you. But we're lacking that. We're lacking support for survivors.
Mhm. So then, would you say then the the issue is just a matter of access to those resources then,
No.
or there's not enough people knowing?
What do you mean the issue?
I know. No, it's so just the access of resources, of having the resources out there that survivors can like have easier access, to, especially because like a lot of the times too, it is just a matter of like figuring out like where those resources are or what is the best proper resource, I guess you could say, to be able to go to have to go to that place for better reporting, and stuff like that, and make sure that all like the guidelines is being followed, or just making sure like there is like due process within like that particular case. I guess does that make sense?
Yeah, I know what you're getting at. So I have an answer to that.
Mm-hmm.
I think we as a community can solve, I mean, air quotes around solve, because there's obviously no solving, but we can do something about one part of that issue. And I think that is a support, like some sort of support group, because it doesn't, as far as I've seen, it does not exist. So it's not like access, it's like
Mm-hmm.
there isn't anything. So I've started something small. I have considered starting an actual group that could
Mm-hmm.
be in person. I didn't start it yet because of the pandemic, and I didn't know, if doing something online would make more sense, which it probably would.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we can fill a gap there. and that will be extremely helpful. Even if it's just connecting people, they don't want to be in the whole group. Okay, I can connect you with one person who's a survivor, and you guys can, text or call or FaceTime or meet up for coffee. That way you have somebody. But the Title IX issue is hard because it's a local Eastern Michigan University issue, but there are like national policy issues with Title IX. And because of the politics of universities, this isn't a new story.
Yeah.
So there's so much that we can actually do. We just have to beg the university to listen. Which is what by we, I'm speaking just as a survivor and for other survivors. It's what we've been doing. They famously responded in an email to all of this commotion and said that our campus is safe. Quote, quote, our campus is safe, end quote. Our president sent an email saying that. And, I'd like to ask the president if he's ever been a female walking alone on campus or on the outskirts around the fraternities and the sororities and those little areas that are really close by. I don't know. It might change things a little bit for him. The university's inaction says more than an email apology. And it indirectly, whether they're doing it on purpose or not, it indirectly protects rapists. So it doesn't matter if they have the right intentions, or a few of them do in their heart and they really do feel bad. Their actions are what have allowed this many women, men, and non-binary individuals to endure sexual assault and rape on our campus. And the way they're handling it is allowing our assault to continue and allowing our trauma to continue. And that's what makes it, I don't know the right word, like heinous. Like, it's not okay.
And just even to add on to that, wanting to create like a space and support for survivors. I mean, I made this podcast like exactly for that, but also too just to bring more awareness and more light to it too, because like it's we also run into the issue as a community where it's I wouldn't say trendy activism, but it's just like when we perform some form of activism, it just sort of like have this like sort of like plateau of like, oh man, we are talking about it, we are talking about it. Oh, we're talking, and then boom, just silence, just nothing after a few months or so, especially when things are just slowly are getting back to like, oh, business as usual, sort of deal. So it's like one of those things where like we have to like try and keep the conversation going, but at the same time it's also like figuring out like how to like best go about that too, whether it's within like the community of Eastern or outside it as well too, um, so and like with that said, so what would you like to see like change or have happen within like the near future, especially school almost starting back in like the next couple of months and stuff, and wanting more like awareness around this issue and like more like conversations surrounding this.
I mean, I hate to phrase it this way, but I feel like the first thing that comes to mind is a bit unrealistic. But I just think that, and this is hard coming from somebody who's an alumni of Greek life. I'm going to mention Greek life here because this is what I'm about to talk about. But I think Greek life is like a hot spot for rape culture.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best way I can describe it. Like rape culture exists everywhere. But there are hotspots, and another example of that would be in athletics.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't. We get a lot of the same kind of apologies from fraternities that we get
Mm-hmm.
from university. They're kind of the same thing. It's like they didn't seem to care until all the media had its eyes on them,
Mm-hmm.
and then they apologized. And if you cared, you would have always cared, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And, fraternities are making strides here. Like, a lot of them have started, like, a sexual assault awareness, like, chair position, or, like, where they're going to do programming to educate their members.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, although I'm glad that people are stepping up and creating those positions and trying to do that. I don't know. I just think it would be better if fraternities would say, I don't want to be a part of it. I can still have a brotherhood without these Greek letters,
Mm-hmm.
and we're going to respectfully remove our chapter from campus.
Yeah.
And that's a big ask. And you're like, what do you want to see happen? I would
Mm-hmm.
love to see that happen. I think if that happened, if even one fraternity did that, imagine they would speak volumes.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that would send like a vibration. Like I would feel it in my apartment. Like if there'd be an earthquake in here if someone did that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah. I
Because
mean,
that's action. Like that's, you know what I'm saying? Like
mm-hmm.
actions speak louder than words, and that's
Yeah.
a big one. That's a big action.
Yeah, it is, and I mean, like, as someone, I'm also like an alumni of Greek life too. I'm the former president of a fraternity too, so like, I really wanted to like use my fraternity to be of good to like the community as a whole too, especially with just a lot of the shit that has been going on, on campus and the community and stuff. But it's also realizing too, being a part of the community, how much there is still that needs to be changed, but how much there has been just a lot of talk and not really action. Even though, like, you want people to be like, oh man, do this, do that, and have it like soon as possible. It's still like again one of those things, where like change takes time, actions take time. But realistically speaking, like if you care about your community at all, you will be doing everything that you can possibly can, whether your organization, an individual, or what have you, of being able to be like, all right, here's how we are going to make our community better, not only for us but for everyone else that's involved here. Because at the end of the day, like once we leave, a next generation of students are going to take up sort of the mantle that we sort of left behind, and it's also wanting to make sure like those new students don't like experience what we had to experience or go through what we had to go through, being on this campus, seeing like a lot of like the friction and the politics that happened too. But also too, just for the simple fact too that like, everyone sort of has also had that mentality of just like, oh, we're gonna be number one, we're number one. It's like, how can you be number one if you know your community is sort of in shitter? you
Yeah.
know? So it's yeah. So, but with but with that, just so after everything that sort of happened, after everything that happened and going through the process, and you mentioned your attorneys and stuff, especially over things that happened like this, like past like year and this past semester, what what was where was your headspace at when everything that went down last semester, and then you going through what you're going through with like having to speak with your attorney and stuff like that. If you can delve into that, if
Yeah.
not, that's okay.
Yeah. So, in case people like aren't aware what we're referring to, um, the big offenders names that you can find if you look up sexual assault at Eastern Michigan University, you can like those names came out in the news
Mm-hmm.
around last August.
Yeah. No, it is.
The end.
Yep.
And really close to school too, because we started school like right after. And throughout this year, it's kind of been, it's kind of like you said, like a graph, like where it'll spike and it'll come back down. And it's been doing that kind of all year, depending on what's been in the media and kind of like what people in the community have been talking about, especially on Twitter. I feel like Twitter's the place. Like if we're having a big conversation about this, you're gonna see it all over Twitter, with a bunch of people who went here and who are going here currently. For me, and I'm sure for many others, having this stuff be brought up reintroduces a lot of PTSD into your daily life. So it wasn't, it's not an easy thing, if that makes sense. I don't think like if had all this happened, I don't think I would have had the courage to go to the police, and I don't think I wouldn't have been a part of a lawsuit. Like all this stuff wouldn't have happened the way that it is. And even though it's a lot of trauma and it's a lot of bringing stuff to the surface that maybe you just wanted to kind of let live and let live, it's kind of all worth it being in that headspace if it means that we're going to form a community of survivors in the minimum that support each other, because that's at the very least what has happened and what's going to continue to happen. And if hopefully it's going to better our community in the process, and it's going to bring awareness like we have been for the past year. The issue here, but everywhere, because it exists everywhere. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. So I promise it's there. But yeah, I mean, PTSD, you fail some classes, or tests are harder, that sort of thing. I feel like daily that's kind of how it affects people. I don't know. It can be different for everyone, but it makes it really hard for me.
Yeah, I can only imagine, and just hearing that, and just also just thinking about what the people I know personally know like went through and stuff, and how that like even that how me as a person, as a dude, how much I feel like I can't really do much to help with them in the way that I believe they can. But we're still wanting to try and figure out ways to like be an ally, be there to support them, and stuff. Because I don't want this to like happen to like anyone else. Like you don't want this to happen to anyone else. No one that's ever been affected by this, whether they're a survivor, an ally, or whatever, just don't want this to happen to everyone else. But it's still like a thing that just is still like going on. And like, yeah, it's cool that we're in the day and age of the internet, and the pandemic really has brought to light a lot of stuff. But still, at the same time, there's still a lot of work that still needs to be done. You know. For that, I also know like you have some stuff and wrote some stuff down. So would you like to share a little bit of that stuff?
Yeah, no, I have kind of, I've collected like over this past year. I kind of like, when all of it started, I started a workshop just so that I could have something, so that at some point maybe I can, speak to people, hopefully in real life, because I think it has more impact to go to groups and speak to them in real time, like to their face, because then they like have to feel the shock of what you're saying. But something I did want to mention, because you said this just a second ago, and I've heard this a lot, is that specifically men who want to be allies feel like they don't know how to do it. And I've heard this on numerous occasions. I've had, when Twitter was in a boom of I've had men DM me and say, like, I want to be an ally, but I don't know what to say.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm supposed to do, or like what's the right thing, because they don't want to do the wrong thing. I know I'm generalizing when I say men, but that's kind of like the experience I've had, is that it's always been a man
Mm-hmm.
saying this. So I actually have, in this workshop, I included some things that man or woman or non-binary individual you can do to be an ally.
Mm-hmm.
And these are pretty simple. These are pretty simple. This is specifically targeted like at men, but
Mm-hmm.
everyone can do this stuff. The first thing has to do with toxic masculinity. If you break it down, toxic masculinity is simply a mask. That's all it is. I feel like you have to act a certain way to
Mm-hmm.
impress a certain group of people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, toxic masculinity largely contributes to rape culture. Like when I think rape culture, I also think toxic masculinity. They
Mm-hmm.
go together. What you can do is when you notice toxic masculine behavior in your friends, you can call them out on their
Mm-hmm.
behavior, which is holding people accountable. You can do it in a nice way. You don't have to do it in front of other people if you don't want to. You can always pull them aside or send them a text. I mean, in person is probably better, but you know, these
Yeah.
days you never know. And you say like, when you said this, it made me feel like this, and it could make a larger group of people feel like this, and it's not cool. Like it doesn't make you look more impressive. Like I don't know what to tell you. I think that there's also like, especially with men, there's like a stigma around having emotions,
Mm-hmm.
showing your emotions, and so if a man is in any way emotional or feminine, because I feel like emotions and being feminine are very much
Mm-hmm.
connected, and that's why it's bad for a man to have feelings. If you're a guy or a girl and the guy who you're with is having emotions, make space for them to have that. Tell them, like, if they're having trouble experiencing it, just say like, it's okay for you to feel things. Like,
Mm-hmm.
give yourself a minute, like make some space for what you're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Like, try to expand yourself around it. Like, feel the emotion in a little bubble in your body and expand yourself around it like you're giving it a hug. It helps. I do this in therapy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Things we learn in therapy, because then you're not being toxically masculine. You're not calling them out for having feelings and saying that, oh, they're a pussy because they have feelings. No.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
a lot of this doesn't seem like it applies to rape culture, but it all does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry to cut you off. But it is, but I mean, like as like a dude, like yeah, like when you're like growing up, you're typically just like, oh man, you're crying. Oh, don't cry. Just hold it in and stuff like that too. And then there's also like the fact too of like if you show like a little bit of like feminine behavior, then it's like, oh yeah, you're not a dude. And I won't say this derogatory term on live and stuff,
Yeah, I
but
know what you're referring to.
yeah, yeah. So it's just so again, it is like one of those things too, where like a guy can't really express themselves too, but it's also like too where like they also don't understand like the matter of self control too. Especially if just like, oh yeah, if you're a dude and you see a girl, like definitely go after her, stuff like that.
Right.
When it's like, no, just
You
be
want to know what
respectful.
that is?
What?
That's toxic masculinity leads to that. It leads to this social and sexual dominance that men feel like they need to have.
Mm,
And that's where rape culture comes from.
yeah.
What I'm trying to do is like soften the underbelly. You know what I mean?
Mm,
The way
yeah.
to do that, we can do some stuff by protesting on campus, but this is something we can't do.
Mhm.
Yeah, like this is something you do with your friends.
Yeah.
Like if
Yeah.
you're a man and you're hanging out with all the guys, and it might seem uncool for you to be like, "Hey, that was toxically masculine." I don't care. If you care about rape and it not happening, you need to call your friends out.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and at the end of the day, it is accountability. Like everyone is like ready to point the fingers at each other, but it's like, hey, you got three fingers pointing right back at you.
Because you're
Because
a part of the group,
yeah.
and it's the system, not the individual.
Yeah, and so so in what ways then would you say we could do to help improve the system or make it better, or more ways of just really opening more of that space for like guys to be able to fully express themselves without judgment, without feeling like they need to socially have to do this because they're a guy, they have to do this. But like also just like a matter of like accountability too, and what that would look like too, because I feel like if people talk about accountability, you're all like, oh, okay, yeah, we could easily do that, and it's just like, well, you're not really showing that or showing that level of accountability, that people like expect. So, I guess what I'm saying is, what are your expectations of accountability, and like in like the macro sense and micro?
Okay. Well, I'll start with macro because I think I have three things. Um, I think the first thing is to just broaden your understanding of what rape culture is,
Mm,
because you need to understand it. So you have access to the internet. There's no excuse for you to not know. You know what
yeah.
I mean? So go online, do some reading. Go on the website rain.com. Read on there. I've read on there for hours before. Um, it's a good resource. Just
Mm-hmm.
educate yourself first off on what rape culture is. The second thing is to approach the topic with an intersectional lens. So I
Mm-hmm.
know I wrote that in here. That's why it's so well put together.
Yeah.
Trust me, I didn't just like think of that on the spot. But
Okay.
the intersectional term, the way I'm using it here, what it means is like the overlap of social identities contributing to the specific type of oppression and discrimination experienced by an individual.
Mm-hmm.
So that can mean a couple different things depending on um, the individual you're uh, maybe referring to or
Yeah.
whatever. But you can't look at rape culture without an intersectional lens. You have to look at it with one.
Mm-hmm.
The third thing is to practice consent. Don't assume it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
That's
something
very
that
important.
if you're not used to, not that not that everyone's a rapist, because not
Mm-hmm.
everyone is. But there are like little things you can do daily that even that I've started doing daily that are more um, they incorporate consent. I have a
Mm-hmm.
young friend. They're like 5 years old, and I want to give them a hug rather than saying, "Oh, come over here and give me a hug." Hey, can I give you a hug?
Mm-hmm.
If your friend is feeling, I don't know, they're feeling sad, and you want to comfort them,
Mm-hmm.
you can ask like to what level they feel comfortable being comforted, because you don't want to overstep someone's boundaries. It's almost like practicing boundaries, but in a more conservative way.
Mm-hmm.
In a daily sense, we're not always crossing sexual lines.
Mm-hmm.
So I think those are like three big ways that you can try and stand up against rape culture, as well as, like I said, holding people accountable. That's just obvious, but
Mm-hmm. For sure. And also, I apologize for the dog barking in the background. I am currently at my house, so I am in the in the neighborhood, so that's like the neighbor's dog barking. So sorry to all those that might be watching and have been like coming in and out and stuff. So, My apologies, but continue on, Sophie.
Yeah, I think the one thing I wanted to say is my friend, um, when I was working on this workshop, I actually like wrote a note here and I like quoted him because he said this as I was like working on it. His name's Chaz. So if you're in the community,
um,
you know who he is.
mhm.
He said hypermasculinity is a pandemic.
Interesting. Yeah.
But think
In-
about that,
yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
If
Yeah. I mean.
people weren't, if that, I'm telling you, it's the top. This is my toxic masculinity card, everybody.
Mhm.
Um, it's because it needs its own card because it's very important. Um, so like, think about athletes in a locker room and what
Mhm.
things might be passed back and forth verbally with them,
Mhm.
right? That that is hypermasculinity, and that
Mhm.
is rape culture. And if we would do those things I was saying to soften the underbelly, that would work. That would do so much to change rape culture, so much.
For sure. We went over a little bit of time, but before we go, do you have any last things that you want to tell to everyone that's watching this live and then watching this on YouTube after it's all done and stuff? Just so you guys are aware, this is also being recorded on YouTube as well. So if you missed the live stream, you can watch it on the YouTube channel at here. So if you want to be notified for new episodes, just follow the YouTube channel at the Tell Your Story Podcast. I'll be having the next episode next week. But yeah, besides that, but what would you like to say, Sophie, before we depart on this fine day?
Yes. So I obviously don't have time to like go into everything that I would love to talk about on this topic because there's so much more,
Mm-hmm.
a lot more. Um, but if you are someone who's been sexually assaulted, or you know someone who's been sexually assaulted, and you need support, or you don't know how to give support, I DM me. You know, I will help you. I will support you individually, in any way that I can. Um, just you know, support your friends and hold people accountable. Hold the university accountable.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And all right, before we leave, don't forget if you want to talk to Sophie, you can follow her on Twitter at Sweet Peeper. And then if you would like to follow her on Facebook, can you mention your Facebook so everyone can know where to find you?
Yeah, my Facebook is just my name. It's just Sophie Rose. Should be Rose, not my last name that's on here. But yeah.
For sure. And then with that said, I am also doing a virtual 5K on sexual assault awareness, and wanting to raise money for Rain, as she mentioned earlier. So Rain, if you don't know what it is a anti-sexual violence organization that deals with like the education of sexual assault awareness, how to sort of spot it, and they also do seminars and help make trainings for a lot of different communities and organizations too. They also work with 1,000 different like sexual assault like providers, so they go out their way to like make sure to work on a local level too, making sure that again survivors have a space, but also have like the resources necessary to help bring more awareness to this and stuff like that too. So the virtual 5K will be on this month, July 23rd. You can join either on the Just Move app, or you can follow on the Facebook page. But if you want me to send you the link, you can also follow me on Instagram, which is my social media handle at Kwanzo underscore Wyatt. So with that said, Thank you, Sophie, for being on the podcast and being my first guest. Oh, and also, if you're wondering, if you guys are wondering why there's only one, um, it's also just because of the fact that people have like things to do. A couple of people dropped out, but a couple of people said that they want to come to next week's episode. So also next week's episode will be around either the same time or a little bit later. I'll let you know tomorrow or Sunday what the time is for the next one. And Sophie, if you would like to be on the next episode too, you're more than welcome to. If you want to finish off the rest of what you wanted to say too that we couldn't get to today. But yeah, again, thank you guys for tuning in, and hope to see you guys next week. So